Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Laurier's virtual open house, and specifically this evening's session on business technology management. My name is Craig Chips. I'm the manager of Canadian student recruitment at Laurier, and I will be your moderator for this evening, but I'm surrounded by four top-notch experts from different perspectives relative to our business technology management program. So I'm going to introduce the real stars of the show here, our current students in the program first, and then also introduce you to two more VIPs, and then we'll get into a bit of an introduction about the program in general. So Lee, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Lee. I am currently a fourth year BTM student, and I'm also doing my third, also the last co-op term in New York City in a digital consulting company as a revenue operation intern. Fantastic.
Arjun.
Hey guys, my name is Arjun. I'm in my last co-op term as well in fourth year BTM program. I'm currently as a cybersecurity analyst at Sun Life Financial. Some of my extracurricular involvements on campus include the Business Tech Management Student Association, being a first year, second year, and VP. I'm currently being a BTM ambassador, as well as a BTM mentor. And I look forward to answering any of your questions you have tonight.
Fantastic. So both of our student panelists this evening are actually on their co-op terms. And we have another expert relative to the co-op piece of the program. Tim, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Tim Stedman. I'm the co-op manager for Laurier, based out of Brantford. I've been with Laurier for about 15 years, 10 of it with the Brantford campus, and really have been with the business technology management program and the co-op aspect of it for the past 10 years. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here today talking about a fantastic program.
Fantastic. And I want to introduce, before I introduce our next panelist, going to be running us through the program, one of our esteemed faculty members, in fact, the program coordinator right now of the program. Some of you actually have already dove into the question and answer widget, which is fantastic. So people like myself, Arjun, Lee are going to be working away on those questions in the background. So feel free to populate them whenever they pop into your head as we go. And we'll be pulling some of those into the broadcast as well. So don't be shy there. I'll also be dropping a few links into the chat. Things like links to where you can find out more information about our virtual open house activities. So this is our Brantford focused week. So programs like business technology management, as well as some of the campus life things that you might have questions about at our Brantford campus. And then this coming weekend and into next week, we'll be diving into more topics related to our Waterloo campus. You can find all that information on the virtual Laurier experience. That is our one-stop shop for all the things you could possibly need relative to the events that we have, both virtually, which is one of the main things we're doing for now anyway, but also in person. You can book an in-person campus tour at our Brantford campus. Those are open, and we would love to show you around, not just on the campus, but some of the cool facilities specific to students in the business technology management program. So that's it for me. I'm going to switch my mic off for a little bit and turn the floor over to Oliver to first introduce himself and to give us a bit of an overview of the program.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking your time to attend this session and to join us as we here to give you some information on what the business and technology management program is and why you should be thinking about joining us. So my name is Dr. Oliver Masagura. I'm the program coordinator for BTM. I will be sort of introducing the program. I'll do that for about 10 minutes or so, and then I'll leave a lot of time for questions, as well as for Arjun and Lee, as well as Tim, to provide their perspectives on both the student experience as well as the co-op experience. So what I'll do is that I will use the slides that you can see here, and I will sort of follow this, sort of what you can see in front of you here. I'll just do a background of the program, and then the program requirements, what you need in order to get into BTM, the program design, And then the co-op program, I will not talk a lot about it because Tim is here. He will give you more information. Then career opportunities and questions. Okay. All right. Okay, so the business and technology management program is essentially a business program. It's like your BBA, but unlike your BBA, the business and technology management program focuses on combines two aspects of business. One is the business aspect, which is your accounting, your finance, your marketing, your math, your statistics, and so on. And it combines that with the tech aspects. So business and technology management program, to summarize it, is a degree that combines two components, the business component as well as the tech components. We use technology to solve business problems. So the idea is that when you come into the program, you're going to be learning your standard business courses, as I mentioned, like marketing, finance, and so on and so on. And then you're going to be learning how to use technology to solve real business problems, to come up with real business solutions. This program is a fairly new program, both at Laurier as well as across Canada. It came as a result of the industry recognizing the need for graduates who are comfortable and who are competent in using technology to solve business problems. So unlike your BBA, where you don't do a lot of technology courses, or you may do one or two courses only, technology, or the BTM program combines almost half and half. So half of your courses are going to be business, half of your courses are going to be technology. An important point to note as well here is the fact that BTM has a large one of its core components is the co-op, which Tim is going to talk about once I'm done. So what are the requirements for you to get into BTM? We require you to have a 70% in English, grade 12, 70% in either advanced functions or calculus at grade 12. And your top 6 courses in grade 12, we're requiring at least low 80s. We don't expect you to actually come in and you would have done computer science or IT. That's not, you shouldn't be worried about that. You will learn all your tech when you come in. As Arjun and Lee may actually also testify to you, all the tech aspects are taught by faculty members who have computer science degrees as well as business degrees. So those profs are able to combine IT aspects or CS aspects, or computer science aspects, as well as using those aspects to solve business problems. So if you are not doing IT in high school, or you're not doing computer science in high school, don't worry. As long as you are interested in how you can learn to use technology to solve business problems, as long as you're interested in those things, then we'd really love you in our program. One thing I should also mention is the fact that our program is based at the Brantford campus, as opposed to BBA, which is based at the Waterloo campus. Let me move on. So as I mentioned, the BTM program, it combines your traditional business courses with your tech courses. So you can see on the diagram here that you've got the core business courses, marketing, finance, accounting, business ethics, and so on, business law, mathematics, economics. And then on the technology aspect, Arjun and Lee may also chime in later on. You're going to be doing database management. You're going to be doing coding. You're going to be doing information technology management. You're going to be figuring out how to create software. There's a course called software development. You also be learning how you can design systems in organizations to optimize text, to come up with tech solutions, as well as to optimize the actualization in the business. The third component here of the program is that you're going to do what are called foundational courses or foundations, or what we call Brantford foundations, as well as electives. So these Brantford foundations are courses that everybody at the Brantford campus does. They include, how to do a literature review, for example, how to do citations, how to do research, how to write papers, for example, how to present your material, etc., as well as other electives. You can take electives in criminology, you can take electives in health studies or health sciences. You can take electives in user experience and design. So there's many options. There are many electives you can take at the Brantford campus. So I know Tim is going to talk in detail about the co-op, but I'll just mention that the co-op is a key component of the program. Everybody who comes into the BTM program gets automatic entry into the, who comes to the BTM program gets automatic entry into the co-op. However, in order for you to actually get into the co-op, you need to maintain a certain GPA, which is a GPA of 7.0. So from first year, second year, third year, fourth year, you need to be able to maintain that GPA, or what we call progression requirements. So in first year, in order for you to actually, progress from first year to second year, you need a GPA of 7.0. From second year to third year, you need a GPA of 7.0. From third year to fourth year, you need a GPA of 7.0. For you to actually get into the co-op, you also need to meet these requirements, and Tim will talk about that later on. The co-op office in Brantford provides all the coaching you need. It's a one-stop shop where you're taught how to write resumes, you're taught business etiquette, you're taught how to look for jobs, how to do interviews, and so on and so on. Okay. So I'm just mentioning that as part of my my presentation here, but more details will come from Tim. So BTM, as I mentioned, is part of the Lazaridis School of Business and Economics. The LAZ, as we call it, is an accredited business school, and the BTM itself as well is an accredited program. So it was brought from the ground up by industry experts. So our courses align with what the industry is requiring or what the industry requires. So we're in constant consultation with them on what courses are required, and we constantly revise our curriculum to reflect what the market requires. So the degree you're getting from BTM or the degree you're getting from Laurier is an industry relevant degree. Once you graduate, you are ready to hit the ground running. Once you graduate, you are ready to be a valuable. You may be an entrepreneur, for example, or you may decide to work. Our degree equips you with the skills you need to be very successful in the market. So we combine academic rigor as well as the practical rigor in the program. So when you graduate, you have a degree called the honors in Bachelor Business Technology Management program. And as Tim will talk about, you're also getting at the end of it an equivalent of 12 months worth of work experience. And that's important because once you get to the workplace, you're able to quickly adapt and use those skills you would have learned from your co-op. Okay. So what are business and technology management students actually doing? I mentioned at the beginning that they are in high demand because the industry requires graduates that are competent in technology as well as the business aspects. So with students who've just graduated, we also have got Arjun and Lee here who are right now on their co-op. They are working on different areas of the business, but in general, our graduates go into project management, they go into project management. Some of them are in business analysts, some of them are systems analysts, some of them are in technical sales and marketing. The nice thing about the business and technology management program is that it allows you to go into any business in any industry. A lot of students graduates are in insurance, banking, finance, some are in consulting, some are in manufacturing, some are in the public sector, some run their own businesses. So the sky is the limit for a student who has done a BTM because they have the relevant technical as well as technical skills from the IT perspective, as well as technical skills from other traditional business courses. So just to recap, a BTM student is much more versatile A BTM student is much more prepared for the marketplace. A BTM student has a wide range of skills that allow them to go into virtually any industry. So the typical jobs, again, just to rehash here, and the typical employers that we see our students going into: banking, into insurance, into tech firms. Some of them are startups, some of them are big companies, into agriculture, for example, John Deere there, into insurance, etc. So what I'll do is that I will stop here. I will hand over the floor back to Craig to get us to get the program continuing. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. Appreciate that. Tim, I want to give you a chance to dive in a little bit deeper relative to the structure of the co-op program, as well as some of the pieces that are important for students to know, and just your experience when it comes to getting our students that have this opportunity for automatic co-op job ready, which I know was such a big focus of the program, because you actually do have to interview to get those jobs.
Yeah, and so I mean, to introduce what co-op is at Laurier, it's an opportunity for students to gain hands-on practical work experience, and this is paid work experience in their field of study. So when students are in the program and they're actively applying for jobs, they're looking for and applying to business technology management positions. So these are all roles that we've taken a look at and vetted to ensure that they've got a nice blend of business and the technology components in order to qualify for that type of program, so that when you do graduate, you've got a full year of paid work experience in your field of study. And the way the program is structured, so as Oliver mentioned, students are automatically offered admission into the program at the beginning of second year if you meet progression requirements, and then they have 2 work terms. So there's an 8-month work term in the fall. So you'd be starting from September and going straight through till the end of April. And then you come back for your summer term and complete some more courses. Then you go out for a 4-month work term. And this is all happening during 3rd year, just before you begin 4th year. So yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity to explore a wide range of industries, a wide range of areas within business technology management. I mean, we find a lot of students in the program really have no idea what they want to do. So they're just looking to try out, what does a business look like? What do business responsibilities and all those requirements look like? What's an IT job like? What is an international bank and their culture all about? What's a small tech startup like? You find that the atmospheres and the cultures are wildly different. And so this is an ideal opportunity, a fantastic opportunity to just explore what the industry has to offer, and gain some experience and get paid doing it. So when students are brought into the program, we essentially start training. We do what we call co-op fundamentals. And this is lined up as a set of modules that are all focused on career preparation and job search. So for all the students that we just admitted into the program this year, we've been working through a set of modules, including resume, cover letter, job search techniques, interview skills. We'll be doing practice interviews in the winter term when all of the senior BTM students get back onto campus, and we have an opportunity to have a couple of them interview the second year group and provide feedback on how their interview skills are. And this is really all meant to get students prepared for the recruiting process, because the recruiting process is competitive. Students are applying to jobs with their resumes, their cover letters, their transcripts, and employers are choosing who they would like to make offers to. So it really is a competitive process, and students really have to work hard to secure the opportunities that you get. So the stories that you're going to hear from Lay and from Arjun, they were actively competing with their peers to secure great quality opportunities. And they were applying all of the things that we talked about in the fundamentals workshop. I'll also talk about the wages that students are earning in business technology management. Last statistic I looked at, or last number I looked at, was around $760 per week for a first work term student, and then it jumps up to about $820, somewhere in that neighborhood, for a second work term student going out on their 4-month. So the average salaries for a business technology management student, are quite good, especially when you think about it from that you're a third year, university student. You're making some pretty solid wages. And geographically speaking, where students are securing jobs, about 75% of the jobs that we post are within the Greater Toronto area. So depending on who you talk to, that is a geographic area that ranges all the way from Oshawa all the way down to Burlington and could extend out to Milton. So, we post about 75% of our jobs in that geographic area. Then we're posting jobs in the Waterloo region. That's the technology triangle. There's lots of great opportunities in Brantford and Hamilton and Burlington and St. Catharines and London, like all around Southwestern Ontario are a lot of fantastic opportunities. But we do post the odd opportunity that's outside of Ontario as well, typically out west, like over towards BC or somewhere in Alberta. Usually there are some opportunities posted there, but I'd say the vast majority of experiences that we're posting are within the Southwestern Ontario area. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Did I catch all of your questions, Craig?
I think you covered it really nicely, Tim.
Did I? Okay, great.
Thank you.
I don't want to leave anything open.
No, I think that's great. So I want to encourage our audience, if you've got some additional questions and answers, pop those into the widget. Before we get to actually talking to the student experience and having Arjun and Lee jump in, I'm going to take a second to talk a little bit about admissions because we have had a few questions about that in the Q&A. So I dropped a link a little bit earlier into our program pages. That's where you can find all the details. So specifically for business technology management, the 2 prerequisite courses are 4U English, and you also need to have either calculus and vectors or advanced functions. So you need those as the required courses. Those 2 will be included in the 6 courses that we use to calculate your overall admissions average. Now, we get questions a lot, and there was actually a specific question in the chat about how do grade 11 marks come into play. It's a very good question, and one a lot of students are curious about. Grade 11 marks can make a difference as to when you get an offer of admission, but not whether you'll get an offer of admission. So we do use grade 11 grades for our first round of offers that will actually come out before the holidays, because those are the only grades that we'll have available to us. When we look at grade 11 grades, we are going to be looking for, one, that you have all the prerequisites. We're looking for a high level of achievement when we use those grade 11 grades. We do not look at, so obviously another question just popped up, do we look at midterm marks? We don't typically for grade 12. So what we'll do is we'll do a round of admissions based on your grade 11s that we'll have in the system at the point when you apply. The next time we get grade information will be final grades from your first term in grade 12. And I know there's a lot of shifting with that relative to whether you're in a quadmester, octomester. There's a lot of variety in terms of how courses are being delivered across high schools, not just in Ontario, but everywhere in the world this year. Don't worry about that. We've got it handled. We have a lot of experience having gone through this last year. If anything, this year will be easier, and it really will be business as usual. So we will use grade 11 grades for early offers of admission, but your grade 12 grades are the ones that matter most. So your conditional offer will always be based on final grade 12s. And when we're talking about scholarship money, scholarships are always based on your final 6 grade 12 courses. So your admissions average is one thing where we use grade 11s. when we talk about the grade 12s at the end of June, those will be the ones that will be used for your scholarship calculations also. So I wanted to quick hit a little bit on that. Arjun, I'm going to throw it to you now. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about, maybe first, since Tim was the last one online, tell us a little bit about your co-op experience and maybe compare that against what life is like when you're in an academic term, when you're actually on campus, in class, or in your case, working remotely for periods of time as well. You've had quite a diverse experience at this point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So like Tim mentioned, our co-op is divided between 8 months and 4 months. So for my 8-month term, I worked at a small ERP company called Blue Link, and my role was traditionally documentation. So taking in the software, learning the software, and creating internal and external documentation to help the employees and our customers. But based on the level of knowledge you have from the BTM program, that role changed to more of an IT consultant kind of role. So for my first 4 months, that 8-month term, I worked with consultants in bringing on new customers. I got to go on site and train customers and get to know the software and to be really hands-on with it. The second 4 months, the last 4 months, I transitioned more into an IT role, so more cybersecurity, deploying antivirus softwares across hundreds of virtual machines, looking at the back end of how the software works, troubleshooting and stuff like that. So it's just a diverse skill set that you get from the BTM program that really sets you apart, that you can pretty much do anything. So like I said, you can do the business aspect of it in consulting, and ERP involves accounting, inventory management, supply chain, and stuff like that. And you may not know the nitty gritty of it, but the terminology, how to apply it, and what someone's talking about, so you can engage with them and provide your own feedback and comments about it. My second term that I'm doing right now is at Sun Life, and I'm doing cybersecurity. I'm a cybersecurity analyst, and that's because of the inspiration I got from my last co-op term. So way more of an IT role, but definitely understanding the business implications of cybersecurity and what that means is essential for any business student. And what you get from the BTM program is, how do you cross that bridge between business and IT to understand, just the technology part of it, but also what does that mean for the business at the end of the day? Craig mentioned the difference between being in co-op versus being in school. I find co-op is to be a lot more relaxed compared to school. When you're in school, you're doing a full course load, 5 courses. And you're really hitting the ground running, and you're going at it. Co-op is a bit more laid back, not so much like school, but either way, you still have to put in the work to make sure that you meet the requirements for co-op as well, because you do have evaluations from your employer, and your employer will meet with your co-op advisor depending on your region. So typically in school, your typical 5 course load, and if you're doing extracurriculars, you have that on top of it. So there's a lot going on. I actually like being in school, to be quite honest. There's never a dull moment, to say the least. You're always learning something. You always have to do something. There's always something to do. But in co-op, you have to maybe reach out to your manager to get some more work, which is okay. But in school, there's always more to do. There's always more to learn. You can always go out and find more information. Talk to professors like Dr. Masakari, who you would see in your first year for micro, anything macroeconomics too. You can talk to him, get some help. So there's always something to do when you're in school, as opposed to being on co-op.
Fantastic. Lee, you have had your co-op experience. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And maybe the question I'll ask you is what is the biggest thing you've learned, not in the classroom, but the biggest thing you've learned while being in the workforce during a co-op placement?
I think I have learned many things from my co-op terms, because I did my first co-op in a technology company in Waterloo region, and I worked as a digital marketing consultant, digital marketing coordinator. So I worked with a UI UX designer and also a graphic designer and a copywriter. We are in a team, and it's very, very nice to communicate with various team members from different cultural backgrounds, and also with various technology background, so I could learn about their perspective from their side, and also to merge our perspective together and to contribute to our teamwork. And I went back to my academics term, I found what I learned from the first co-op work, like the communication skills, the teamwork ability, and also some technology topics we usually talk in my co-op term will be also contribute to my academic learning, because I can share my experience and ask a relevant question to the professors. So it's kind of like a double combo or perfect combo when you working and then jump from working to academic term.
Fantastic. So Oliver was detailing earlier on, Lee, the balance between the business side of the degree and the more technical proficiency side of the degree. It's really the perfect balance that makes you super marketable. Coming into the program, would you have considered yourself more business or more technology? And has that changed as you've gone through the program?
I would say 50% technology, 50% business, because BTM is under the Lazaridis School of Economics and Business. What we learn is more about business, but actually the technology we learned plays an important role when we complete our schoolwork and also perform in the real life work environment, such as the JavaScript, the SQL, and also the programming languages, and also Microsoft Team, the VBA, the relevant popular technology skills. Those are like shining point I can talk during the co-op interviews with my future manager. So I think if you want to learn more about business side, you can try to join many social events organized by the co-op center, such as the career fair every year. So you can learn about different business perspective from the Laurier alumni, and they then share your interests if you have more interest in the business industry. But if you want to do more about the technology work, you can always ask the professors. They teach you the technology skills, and also to join the other technology event outside Laurier. There are many, there are great network of Laurier alumni on LinkedIn. So I usually talk with them on the LinkedIn, and they will tell me some like technical trails if I'm interested in the consulting industry or I'm interested in the project management industry.
Great. Arjun, how about you? Would you say grade 12 Arjun was more of a business, comfortable in the business realm, more comfortable in the technology realm? And would you say that that's kind of just grown, or has that changed as you've gone through the program?
Yeah, I would say I was more business than technology. You know, I thought I knew quite a bit of technology, but coming into the program, you know, there's a whole other world to technology that maybe you hadn't known about until you came to university in a very specialized program. You know, in high school in grade 12, I took international business, accounting, and just general courses like that. So I was more business oriented. Coming into university, learning about technology and how technology can solve everyday business problems, I definitely started to learn more and become more interested in IT, which is why like my role kind of shifted from the business aspect of it towards more IT, but still understanding the underlying business problem of it and using IT to solve those problems.
And just kind of piggyback on that point, I'd say that once we admit students into the program, we sit down and we have an initial conversation, because you know every student who comes into the program is working one-on-one with a coordinator, which is me, and we sit down and we talk about you know, what do you want to do like that now that you're in the program, and where are your interests. And I would say probably about 70% of the students that come into the program are more business focused, and so they you know, they're either interested in the technical side, or they may even be a little bit scared of the technical side, and you know, don't really know what it has to offer. But then when we do our final debrief after students have completed 2 work terms and are just getting ready to start 4th year, it's like they've fully embraced the technical aspect of it and really see its value and how it augments the business training that they got. So it's kind of funny the way you see it over the years and how it evolves.
Very cool. Oliver, I've got two questions for you that are pulled right out of our Q&A. The first one actually relates very much to what we were just talking about, sort of the two sides of the brain, business and technology. Student who was asking, they have zero experience with coding, but they are interested in the program. Is that going to be an issue for them?
No. And the reason why it's not an issue is because we don't require you to come in with knowledge in IT or with, having done computer science. All of that stuff is actually taught by our faculty members who, as I mentioned before, have degrees in computer science as well as in business. So the short answer is no, don't worry about it. As long as you are interested in technology and using technology to solve business problems, and as long as, importantly, you are interested in learning and growing, experimenting different things, failing, and getting assistance or getting help from your colleagues or from faculty members, as long as you are interested in having the university experience, which is learning and growing, you'll do well in business and technology management.
Fantastic. And then another question from Ethan. He wants to know, is there a maximum number of students that are accepted into the program every year? Which I know is a little bit of a loaded question. Why don't you talk just generally about the size, and then I might be able to kind of come in and add a little bit more perspective from the pure admissions side of the equation, Oliver.
Right. So BTM is a fairly new program, as I mentioned. And that means that, relative to other established or, BBA program, for example, BCom, etc., that attract or that actually get a lot of students or that admit a lot of students, BTM doesn't admit a lot of students. Right now, we range from 60 to 100 students. Part of that is because we are fairly new, but also part of that is also because we're combining tech and business. So we need to have the capacity to be able to provide the lab space and so on and so on. But, in a nutshell, we are a fairly small program. So what that means is that, as you hear from maybe Lee and Arjun, is that because our class sizes are very small, you've got an intimate relationship between, faculty members and the students, as well as students develop very strong life, relationships because they work on every project together. When they go to co-op, they are helping each other if they are in the same company, or even when they are, at the co-op office, getting some advice, they are always together. They, on campus, when they are in their dorms, they live in the same corridor. They interact in the BTMSA, of which Arjun is very active. And they also go to different events like Lee mentioned. So it's a very small program, but that also makes for a great experience because you interact with your professors as well with your classmates.
Yeah, so from a mission side, there really isn't necessarily a specific number that we're shooting for.
Yeah.
So the number that really, for students that are interested in the program, they want to be paying attention to is the competitive admission average, which is typically in the mid to high 80s with your top 6, and included in that top 6 would be the English and then one of the 2 math prerequisites we talked about. The way that I kind of explain this to students is that oftentimes they see like as a high cutoff average as like really being equivalent to the quality of the program, which isn't necessarily always the case. I think that speaks to sort of the popularity of the program in the cases like business technology management, where there are limited resources when we talk about the computer labs and some of those more technical spaces. We have to manage the size of it. That comes into play when you talk about admission averages. But on the whole, there isn't sort of a hard and fast number.
Yeah.
We look at sort of the space that they have available. In the past year, it's been sort of, COVID has sort of put a monkey wrench and an additional layer of sort of how that all works relative to lab spaces. And then based on that, That's how we set the cutoff average. So if you were in the neighborhood of that competitive cutoff average, you're in very good shape in terms of admission. So Arjun, inquiring minds want to know, you look like you've got some awards, some certificates of achievement going on in the background, a little bit of a humble brag, maybe a little. Why don't you tell us what you got going on back there?
Sure. So those awards are for case competitions. So as a BTM student in your first year and your second year, you compete in case at BTM. So within your cohort, within your first year, you're going to be into different teams of 4 to 5 people. And you're going to have a 24-hour case competition where your professor will give you a case. You have a assigned room with a projector, a whiteboard, a smartboard actually, and you go and you devise a solution. And the next day you come back and you present to a panel of judges. I was fortunate enough to have a very good team where we won in our first year, second year. And right now we didn't have a competition our third year due to COVID, but it's with that team that we're now on the travel team. So right now, every Sunday we meet to compete at Case IT, which happens at Simon Fraser in Vancouver. So we're heading out to Vancouver in February during the Family Day long weekend to compete internationally at Case IT. So those are just what those awards are for. So if you've done DECA, for example, in high school, it's something similar to that. It's just a case at BTM, you have a good mixture of IT and business problem to solve. And then if you're interested in the travel team, it's that same concept, but to an international scale.
Fantastic. So obviously Arjun has had a really great, rich experience with case competitions. Lee, what was the case competition experience like for you? I assume you've participated as well?
Oh, I think I compete the same competition with Arjun, but I think our team just got the third place. But that's a wonderful experience. I learned from the BTM program because the case you analysis with your team members. And also we have the marketing course, the marketing project you complete with your team, and also the presentation, the group presentation, and other projects you have done in school. They are all very good interview topics you can share with your interviewers, because they will very interested in what kind of achievement you have got in your academic study. So that's why you can stand yourself out when interviewing with them and got a very good co-op job.
Fantastic. So this next question actually comes from Conrad. And Oliver, I'm going to pitch it to you. I'm also curious myself because I don't know. Is there any part of coursework in the program that touches on blockchain, DeFi, or cryptocurrencies in general?
Now, that's a really good question. We don't have one yet. And one reason is that it's a fairly new topic. That's one. But the other one is also the fact that part of that is more finance, and our students don't do a lot of finance courses. So that's what, from a technical standpoint, I can simply say that it's more a finance course than it is sort of a computer science or IT sort of course. You can do that course in Waterloo if you wanted, but I think they don't offer it at an undergraduate level. I don't think in the BBA program they've got that covered. I think it's at the at the master's level. In the master's of it's called Management Analytics. So there's a new program called the Masters of Management Analytics. So they've got that, they cover that in that course.
Okay, so maybe not something you're going to touch on the undergrad, but if you're looking at continuous studies afterwards.
Yeah, but I should also say that I think, as any computer science student, or maybe Arjun or Lee will tell you, is that it's not just what you do in class that matters. It's your interest. So if you're interested in these things, right? For example, if you're interested in cryptocurrencies or trading and so on and so on, you can always, there are a lot of courses at Laurier where you can do online courses from the Waterloo campus. We also have got Prism, for example. I don't know whether Arjun, you have done courses through Prism. Prism comes to to Brantford, and you can do a lot of courses through Prism that are offered at the Waterloo campus. So you may not necessarily do that specific thing in your class, but what University of Wilfrid Laurier offers those courses through Prism.
Very good. So we got a question about DECA being a requirement when applying, and it's not, but I just wanted to mention that something like experience with DECA, if you've had a part-time job that's business oriented or maybe tech oriented, or maybe both, and this is why you're interested in this program, the place to detail those things is on your applicant background summary form. So once you've applied to Laurier, you'll receive access to your admissions portal. On that admissions portal, there's 2 forms you can fill out. They're both optional, but I encourage every student to complete them. The first is the applicant background summary form. It's a place for you to detail things about you that make you a great student beyond just your academic achievements relative to grades. So if you do get involved with organizations like DECA, that's a great place to detail that. We use the applicant background summary form to consider you for admission beyond just those grades. So grades wise, if you're kind of right on the edge of that competitive admission average, this is another piece of information we use to look at for your overall admissibility. So another question is coming up, or a question we've had twice now about the admissions piece. So students that have English at the end of their school year for grade 12, we will look at that grade 11 English mark until such times as we get grade data for grade 12 English. So the most important thing is be registered for all your required courses. So if you've got it coming up, no problem. And we will look at those grade 11 grades until such times as we have more, or until such times as additional grade data comes in. So yep, we've got that all handled, and we will use those grade 11s. Again, grade 11 grades are never going to hold you back from getting an offer of admission, but it's possible that you could get offered a little bit earlier if you have grade 11 or really solid grade 11 grades. All of that to say, the most important thing is doing well in your coursework right now. Those are the ones that matter the most. So Arjun, kind of wrap up our time together tonight. Do you have any words of wisdom relative to, if you think back to when you were making the decision that a lot of people in our audience are going to be making in the not too distant future? What advice would you give, and just in general, in terms of the selection process for where students end up sort of starting building their future at university?
Right. Just know it's okay to be stressed about it. It's a very stressful time. It's a big investment. It's a big investment in time, and just the time you need and the emotion you have to apply to university and to accept an offer. Just know that if you ever need more assistance in picking a university, to always reach out to other students in the program. So if you go on LinkedIn and you find a student in that program, reach out to them and say, what do you think about this? Is this a good fit for me? And get their perspective on it. That's something I wish I had done beforehand, so that I know what I was getting into before applying to or accepting an offer. And before you accept the offer, ensure that it's a good fit for you. You're interested in the subject. Take a look. Laurier is very transparent in terms of what courses you take. So look online to see what courses you would take in the BTM program and see if those interest you. And if they do, that's great. Go for it. If not, then maybe reevaluate where you sit in terms of what kind of program you want to do at one university.
Lee, how about you? Words of advice for students if you think back to where you were when you were making this decision a few years ago.
I would want to say always try different things as you want, because in BTM we can learn both knowledge from business and technology. It is hard for me to choose which path I want to start it in my first year. So I try to do volunteer at school, and I did the international orientation volunteer during my first year. And I tried to did find 2 part-time jobs on campus. One is a technical support, student support assistant in ICT, and also a classroom management student assistant for the learning and teaching department. Those resources I found, they are all in the Career Center website. So I found this is really helpful, and I do want to try to do different on-campus job and to figure out what kind of job I really interested and what kind of people I really want to reach out. So when I finished my second year study, I try to find my first co-op job, and I try to talk with different people I once reached out, both on campus and both they have graduated from Laurier. And I defined I want to do the digital marketing space. And then I found my first co-op. When I back to the university to start my 3B term, I also tried to apply the Laurier ambassador job for the Laurier International Office, and I got the offer, so I can try to do more presentation in front of the public. And I think that's because the presentation skills, I got my second offer in a robot company, which is a marketing assistant work. And also I am working in a consulting company because it is the kind of job I have to communicate with internal employees and external people. So my suggestion is you are in BTM, the world for you is very big and the choices in front of you are buyers. So try to reach out to different people and talk with them and try different jobs or work you are interested in and find your strengths or weaknesses, and that you can improve yourself and to figure out a better future for yourself.
Fantastic. So we have one more admissions related question in the chat, so I'll speak to that very quickly. The question was, would you still be able to apply to this program if you were planning on taking advanced functions this summer? So the answer to that one is maybe. The equal consideration deadline for students to have or to be considered for offer of admission is the middle of January. It is the same for all students. And that assumes that you have or will be taking or registered for all of the prerequisite courses. You wouldn't be able to get an offer of admission to the program if you don't have advanced functions. In all likelihood, you'd end up with an alternate offer of admission. However, you could be reconsidered for admission, provided the program is still open. Business technology management sort of sits in an interesting spot. It is a competitive entry program relative to the overall average, but as we've talked about, it's a small and growing program. So the likelihood that the program application would still be open in the summer is higher than it would be for some other programs in the Lazaridis School of Business and Economics. So in that case, I would say that it's possible, but again, it really depends on what our applicant pool looks like this year. Oliver, you wanted to add something as well?
Well, the question I want to ask is, have they done calculus? Because we take either advanced functions or calculus.
Or calculus, that's right.
Yeah.
If you do have calculus and you've completed that at the minimum 70%, then that would satisfy the prerequisite.
Yeah.
And then we also had another question about what if you don't meet the 70% requirement for advanced functions. So in order to satisfy the prerequisite, you need to have a 70% in both English and in one of those two maths, either advanced functions or calculus and vectors. If you don't have that, unfortunately, that would make you academically ineligible for the program. So with the overall cutoff average, that's a relationship of the number of students that apply and how many spaces we have. Prerequisites, on the other hand, are about the baseline knowledge you would need to be able to succeed in the program. So you would need those prerequisites because the concepts you cover in those grade 12 classes are going to be built on. So it does need to be specifically the grade 12. So I know that there's the grade 11 functions, but it would need to be grade 12, advanced functions, or either that or calculus and vectors. Okay, I want to just drop really quickly in the chat again, where you can visit us for more information about other ways to connect with us. In-person campus tours. We're running virtual campus tours a couple times this week, as well as beyond that. We actually have a private Discord server that's up and running as well. So we call it U Community, and it's a way that you can stay in touch with ambassadors like Arjun and Lee and really be part of a community with a bunch of other students that are in the same position you are in terms of making the same decision that you're about to make. So I encourage you all to take a look at that. I want to thank all of our panelists tonight, Arjun, Lee, Oliver, Tim, thanks for spending your time with us tonight. And to our audience, thanks for being here as well. We wish you all the best with the rest of your grade 12 year. By all means, stay in touch. And of course, until then, stay golden. Have a good night, everyone.